Hello. How you doing today? I'm doing pretty good, thanks. Thanks for joining me on this video real quick. Today's topic, property taxes always go up, right? It's what everybody says 100% of the time. My real estate taxes are always going up. Well, we're going to dive into that, and I'm going to show you something that you probably don't know. But first, I want to tackle a testimonial that come in last year and share it with you and kind of the story behind this a little bit. And you can find this testimonial over at the Wyoming Dream Team website and go to the testimonials page. But anyway, the one I wanted to share with you was from Mark here. During our adventure of buying our first home, we had Jason Walker to help us through this process. He made the searching and home buying process very simple, and despite the horror stories others told us of the process, we were without any stress and very grateful we were able to have someone like him in our corner. AKA horror stories were his friends that were using other services, for lack of a better term, and their experiences weren't great, I guess. I didn't talk to those folks. That's just coming from Mark and his family. But anyway, the fun part about the ending of this was the market was very fast paced. Interest rates we knew were likely going to climb. It was right there when interest rates were still kind of down, were about the 5% range, between 5 and 6, we'll call it that. We had a good suspicion that rates were going to go up, which inevitably they did. That suspicion was correct, but we found them a home before that happened. But the really neat thing that happened was I was able to find them a home that was never publicly exposed to the market. So, using our, part of our off the market property finder program, we were able to find them a suitable home in the price range they could afford. Got it done before interest rates went up and affordability for him and his family become out of control. So that was a super exciting job that I had working for them, and super grateful that they come into my life. So, anyway, back to property taxes. Everybody says that property taxes and real estate taxes always go up, and I've been saying for years that's not true. And it seems like the last few months here, property taxes are becoming more and more of a conversation piece again. And so I decided to do a video for y'all and just kind of show you where I'm coming from when I say property taxes don't always go up. There are years when they go down. And so I printed off, uh, this is a property I own in Gillette, Wyoming. And you can see that because here's my name. I left my name on here. I crossed out which property it was because it really doesn't matter to you guys which property this is. But my point is here, property taxes don't always go up. And the assessor and the government always kind of takes the wrath of this as just general conversation or general talking pieces among the folks. And I've been at closing tables when I've heard this. I've heard title agents say this. I've heard the general public say this. I've heard lenders say this and bankers say this. And it's just not true all the time. And I'm not here defending the tax assessor by any means. I'm just here to simply share a point that uh, for those of us that are blessed in owning real estate, we need to really understand what's going on with our assets. Now, paying taxes is just part of owning real estate in the whole country, right? It's a God-given privilege we have in the United States. But when we get to own real estate, we get to pay taxes. That's 100% of the time, with a few exceptions. Uh, so anyway, I printed out between 2000. You can see here, 2011 and 2023. Every year, there's in between 2011 and 2023, I have the tax amount in here. The tax bill in 2011 was $733, and I've highlighted in red when the taxes went down, okay? And then in purple when the taxes went up. So 2 years in a row, my property taxes went down, 716 to 712. Wasn't significant by any means, but the trend was there. And then we had 1, 2, 3 years where it went back up, and it went from 712 to 733 to 747 to 804. Right here we had a pretty decent jump percentage wise in between 15 and 16. 17 and 18, they go down again, 740, 710. So by 2018, we're relatively back to the same assessment as 2013. And then in 2019, we start to see the trend go up again. By 2022, it had exceeded where it was in 2016. And by 2023, it finally took the big jump and crested $1,000. Now, I'm going to back up here. I'm going to go back to 2012 and 13. By 2011, we were kind of coming out of the 2008, 2009 real estate debacle and crash that happened nationwide. But then in these shortly after, if you guys look back to our local economy, the energy sector had started to slow down a little bit, and it was an election year. Right in here was changeover. Well, not changeover, but it was the presidential election, and then pretty soon the energy industries kicked back up and they were rolling, all of which the economy was rolling. And then if you all remember 2016, in April 2016, the energy economy trifecta occurred in Campbell County. Isolated event to Wyoming specifically, and more specifically Campbell County. Like it felt like Campbell County took a good brunt of that trifecta that was going on and that economic downturn. And so that was April, May, when those markets just tanked. Well, anyway, that's when everybody got scared. Gillette's going to dry up, blow away. We start hearing all these excuses why Gillette's never going to be on the map ever again. And the real estate market started to crash, right? And so that crash, the real estate market in itself, nosedived in a hurry in 2016, despite what we were telling everybody that this was very short-lived and nothing to, from our viewpoint, it wasn't anything to take serious as far as the economy, globally looking at the economy. But the public panicked, and there was job losses, there was people quitting and leaving town, quitting their jobs, people making irrational decisions. There was even people that sold their homes and then went and holed up in a rental. Like, I still cannot wrap my mind around that, why you'd sell your house, perfectly good roof over your head, just to go get a rental when you weren't on the chopping block with your job. Like, a good lot of these folks kept their jobs. Like, anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But the effects of what happened in 2016, like, everything's always in arrears in real estate, right? You always pay your taxes in arrears. You're always paying your interest on your mortgage in arrears. It takes a while for the effects of the real estate market to catch up and really show their signs, right? So we don't see the effects of that 2016 real estate downturn until 17 and 18, right there. And it was by then we could easily say, we could walk up to anybody and say, there's a downturn in the real estate market. If you're in town, you've probably lost a good 30,000 equity. If you're out in the country, maybe it wasn't so significant, but there was a shift in the market. Country properties, commercial properties, industrial properties, residential properties in town. Across the board, everybody was affected in the real estate world. So what this is showing here is the sales that were occurring were on a downward trend. The market was moving downward. Thus, the county assessor was reassessing properties for the entire county, all of which those market values that the county assessor assesses to every one of our properties uh, was also reflecting that downturn. And then we fast forward to 2019. We started to feel that we were getting past that 2016 downturn. Confidence was returning back to the real estate market space. People were starting to move back to Gillette. We realized that yes, the energy industries had suffered a trifecta. It was poor timing, but those economies were coming back, right? And I focus just on the energy economies because that mainly is what drives our community. Obviously, there's other economies too, hospitality, railroad, uh, the tourism, agriculture. We're pretty diverse. In all honesty, you look at our county as a whole, we're pretty darn diverse, even though energy still kind of carries most of the weight. Um, we got a fairly diverse economy, and we start seeing that, and the public starts realizing that here in 2019, and then 2020. Like, this is a fun time period to really kind of talk about, because 2020 was the Rona experiment, and the governments were going to shut us down, and we were non-essential, and we had to stay home, and da 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 da. And that's when we realized just how at jeopardy freedoms were, right? And when people started thinking about their health safety, gun rights, um, and how all this kind of works together, um, political alignments. All of a sudden that was more of a conversation piece. Well, we all know now, looking back, that really kind of spurred the uptick in our real estate economy locally and nationwide. Honestly, like, home ownership nationwide went from here to here. I mean, just that quick. Like, all of a sudden, if the government's going to tell you to be at home and you can't go to work, you just will have your own roof over your head, right? And we started the the public as a whole nationwide really started to value home ownership more so than we've seen longer than my lifetime. Like, I would reading some history that I've read, I would date the value of home ownership, like, at this level, going back to after, somewhere between World War I and World War II. And then after those points, maybe even Vietnam, somewhere in there. But anyway, after that, like, the value of home ownership just kind of every year kind of kept going down a little bit. And it's a good investment, but we really don't value it, or we don't know why we value it. 2020, all of a sudden, we know why we value it, and nationwide, this thing just took off and blew up on fire, right? So 2020, we see here that in 2020, my tax bill is $760. Honestly, that's clear. That dates back. That's replicable of 2014, 2015. We'll just call it there. But then all of a sudden it jumps again in 2022, and then look at this leap. Like, 2023, the tax assessor's always looking in the rearview mirror. At least 12, 6 to 12 months at least. Whereas us as real estate agents and even appraisers, like we get a little narrower viewpoint. We're quite a bit more current on market values than the assessor is. But my point is here, by 2023, the assessor had brought our assessed values up to being a little more accurate. Um, and I can verify this. I know what this property's worth. I see what the tax assessor has it at. Now, thankfully, in Wyoming, like we have enough energy taxes that and tourism taxes that our true tax assessed valuation isn't as strong as the true value that I could sell your property for at any given point in time. Um, so that's still nice. But, they got brought up. And two, like, we know after 2016 and 17, like, now all of a sudden the state government and local governments are saying, hey, where are we going to get some tax dollars from to keep our governments working locally and at the state level? Because if energy and let's face it, political pressures nationwide and worldwide are always going to, from here on out until we know different, are always going to have, especially coal and oil, uh, under the radar, and they're going to scrutinize, and we're going to keep seeing more and more political pressures in those arenas. Uh, so now all of a sudden the politicians are saying, you know, if energy can't carry the weight of the tax burden for the public and all the services that we have, what is? Well, of course, one of the easy looks is to the county assessor. County commissioners are having conversations with the county assessor, the local representatives that represent us down at the state level, they're having conversations with the county assessor. And it's not just our assessor in Campbell County, it's every assessor in the state. Like every one of these groups is having these conversations, and they're saying, hey, you know, if you brought up assessed values a little bit, how much extra would that give our coffers? Uh, how much of that money, taxation wise, could we replace the sales tax on energy? So anyway, I just wanted to point all this out to you because back to the topic of this, property taxes don't always go up. Like, they follow the real estate markets just like anything else. And so, and that's why, like, every once in a while, the market will slip. You have, as a United States citizen, you have the right at any given point in time, whether the market slip or not. You can go in and contest your valuation on your property with the assessor. And that's for a whole nother conversation, but you can contest the valuation, and you can work with the assessor individually about your taxation amount. Um, every one of us has that right. And of course, military and first responders and law enforcement folks of that nature, they get some breaks, and that's well deserved. They all deserve that. Um, so you should, those folks can take advantage of those programs, elderly. Um, but anyway, I hope this helps, and I hope this sheds a little light on some conversations you're all having out in the public or with your friends and family. I know that there's people going around with petitions and taxes are too high and it's going to break us and we can't afford to live and blah, blah, blah. And we need to step back and remember that we do live in Wyoming, and Wyoming is one of the least taxed states in the union. Lesser sales tax, no income tax, lesser property taxes, uh, corporate taxes are less, non-existent really, in the big scope of the world. Um, like We don't have taxes on groceries. Like every corner we turn around, the cost of living here is greater, so much greater than a good lot of the other states in the union. So, uh, I mean, you need to make your own decisions and kind of toe the line where you feel comfortable. But my point is, step out of the box a little bit here and just be aware of what's going on in some of these other states. And I know from my viewpoint, I'm very thankful where I live. And I'm not so caught up in the conversation of, oh, property taxes are going to go up so high they're going to break us. I'm not there uh, personally. But obviously, you got your life and you got your viewpoints. But I do want to put the facts out. And I showed you one of my properties. And 4 out of 13 years, the properties went down. That's just shy of 20, what is that, 25% of the time. I mean, well, between 20 and 25% of the time, property taxes actually went down, didn't go up. So it's just this moving assessment basically. And it's really replicable of the real estate market as a whole. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If you got any comments or thoughts, drop them in the comment section below. I'd sure like to entertain this conversation further if you'd like. Um, Otherwise, thanks for being a subscriber, and we'll catch you on the next video. Talk to you later.